I am so excited about this passage of scripture that we're going to look at today. Last week, we introduced the character of Elisha. We saw how Elijah was at the end of his ministry, the end of his life, and how Elisha asked for a double portion of his spirit. And Elijah is carried up in the whirlwind with the fire and the chariots, and his coat, his mantle falls down, and Elisha picks it up. And then he crosses the river, and when he gets to it, he rolls it up and he hits the water just like he saw Elijah do before him, and the water parts and he walks through. This story is a great picture of how Elisha actually lived out in that double portion of the Spirit, how he actually put it into practice, how God actually used him. So what's happening at the time here is there's a nation of Syria, and they are trying to attack the nation of Israel. And so the king of Syria is meeting with his servants, with his team, trying to decide, what are we going to do? And he says, I can't figure this out. Every time we go after the king of Israel, someone tells him what we're doing and he sneaks away. What do we need to do? How do we capture this king? Is it the king? And one of the servants speaks up and says, it's not the king. It's this man Elisha, who goes and gives him wisdom, gives him advice, gives him counsel. And when they do it, they escape all of our traps. And so the king says, all right, pause on attacking the nation of Israel. We're going to go down and we're going to find Elisha. So Elisha hears of this, and his servant goes out early one morning and looks out, and he sees this army coming towards them. And he goes and he says, Elisha, wake up. Come on, let's see. There is this giant army coming after us. And he begins to be very, very fearful. And in 2 Kings chapter 6, beginning in verse 8 is where we find this story. But in verse 16, this is Elisha's response to him. Do not be afraid, for those who are with us are more than those who are with them. And I can just see the servant's face go, what? There's you and there's me. What do you mean those who are with us are more than those who are with them? Because I see this giant army coming after us, and there's two of us. And then in verse 17, Elisha prays and he says, O Lord, please open his eyes that he may see. So the Lord opened the eyes of the young man, and he saw. Behold, the mountain was full of horses and chariots of fire all around Elisha. So this passage really made me think of so many times we get caught up in our circumstances and what we can actually see with our physical eyes. And this story gives great perspective of there is so much that's happening around us that we cannot see. And that's the big idea for our kids, is that there is an army of the Lord who is fighting on our behalf, who is protecting us, who's watching out for us. God sent a whole army to protect one man who stood for the truth and who spoke for the Lord. And our God is the same God yesterday, today, and forever. So he does that same thing on our behalf. He is fighting on our behalf. There is a great army that is working on our behalf. And that gives us incredible hope, incredible perspective, incredible ability to say, you know what? I can handle the circumstance that I'm going through right now. Even though it seems overwhelming, even though I seem outnumbered, even though in my mind it doesn't make sense, I know that the Lord is doing things that I cannot see right now. And that raises up in me great hope. Because later, after this story happens, many years later, God sends Jesus as a physical representation of an invisible God. Someone we could see and touch and hear and smell, and who experienced everything that we experience in the world. And did it without sin so that we can have everlasting hope. That is a message of great encouragement. That is a message of this story. And then the way that God delivers them. God makes the Syrian army, the enemy army, blind. And they wander into where Elisha is. And Elisha says, guys, you're in the wrong place. You are blind and you cannot see where you're going. You're in the wrong place. And so they take off, and then they regain their sight, and they're in the wrong city. When they open their eyes and realize they're in Samaria, the king of Israel sees them and says, all right, do we attack? Do we kill them? Do we get rid of them now? And Elisha says, no, show them mercy. So they prepare a feast for them. And then once they've eaten and drank and they are refreshed, he sends them home back to their master. What a picture of God's grace and forgiveness to us. That when we open our eyes to see what's happening and we recognize who he is, he doesn't respond with anger and bitterness and a vengeful spirit, but he responds in grace and mercy. So this week, as you prepare, as you read through this story, I pray that the Lord really speaks to your heart in that, and that you are able to see all the ways that God's working on your behalf, that he cares about what you're going through, that you matter so, so much to him, and that he has given you an incredible purpose and an incredible ability to speak truth and life over each kid that's going to be in your class on Sunday. I am so thankful for you guys, and I just pray that this week is an incredible week for you, that you are energized and that you're able to knock some things off of your to-do list this week. Can't wait to see you guys on Sunday. Have a wonderful week.